the proliferation of intelligence operations across the border. And every time a foreign intelligence operative comes into the United States, every time a terrorist comes into the United States, every time an organized criminal syndicate comes into the United States, they have to cross a border. They have to cross a border to get in. And oftentimes what happens is the systematic failures of our ability to protect our borders become the best practices for how our adversaries get into our country.
Yeah.
And I spent a huge chunk of my time at CIA chasing illegal foreign intelligence officers who had abused the system to gain protections to let them operate inside the United States against our own national security interests. So when I hear about projects like yours and passions like yours for protecting the border, man, yes, it is adjacent, but it's adjacent in a way that like two trains are just bound to collide because
Absolutely.
there's so much impact there.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad you say it in that way because, knowing we were going to have you on, I'm like, man, I got to have some questions that I think that could really blend the topic. But just what you said there, it makes me feel really, really confident that we're going to have a great discussion here. We're going to have a huge impact with your information and what you know. One of the questions I have during your time as a CIA intelligence, did you ever, and if you can't answer, please forgive me for asking questions that you might not be able to just we'll guide on to the next one. But have you ever had the opportunity or in your work have to navigate other borders? And when you gathered intel in other countries, potentially, my head is like, how did you come to the conclusion of which borders to cross and how to do it? And how did you gather that intel? And why that's important for me is what's possibly other intel analysts or intel spies are doing on our country.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The big difference between CIA and FBI is that FBI is in charge of protecting and enforcing laws inside the United States. CIA, our job is espionage. Espionage is illegal in every country of the world. Espionage is illegal in the United States. The only reason that sworn CIA intelligence officers are allowed to execute espionage is because we've gotten a grant, a carve out from the president himself or herself that gives us the freedom to execute espionage operations that benefit national security for the United States. So we are trained criminals. Make no mistake, right? The best and brightest and the deepest pockets of the US government go into training CIA to commit espionage and acts of espionage all over the world, which includes crossing borders. So crossing a border in a place like the Central African Republic, or in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or in Burma, or in Peru, those borders are porous. It's very easy to cross a border in countries like that. And we'll still get into why and what makes it easy, Vince. But we also know how to cross borders into very strictly guarded countries. Russia, Iran, Turkey, right? There are countries out there that do not want anyone to cross their borders. And we are trained on how to cross those borders as well. And the fact that we can be operationally trained to do so shows you that the best intelligence officers in the world can do the same thing in the United States. Who are those best intelligence, best trained intel services outside of the United States? The Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians. You've got, that's like formal nation state actors, but then you also have formalized actors that have deep pockets that are not nation states, transnational threats, like weapons proliferators, human trafficking proliferators, weapons smugglers, terrorists, extremists, right? Whether it's from ISIS recruiting lone wolves, or whether it's from Al-Qaeda, who are actually training and creating operatives of their own in the deserts of Pakistan.
Yeah, that's what, just from my experience of studying this and interviewing people, people currently, transnational organizations are coming from all over the world. I mean, places that we've never heard of in the past are now starting to cross our borders illegally. And in that same conversation, because I wouldn't just say currently, I'd say just our borders in general, it's pretty porous as well. As a border patrol agent myself, I would say we did the best we could for how many people we had boots on ground, and for the terrain if it dictated, and for the weather if it dictated. And so we did everything we could to do the best we could. Currently, it's a little different, right? We do have a massive influx of immigration. Some of them are posing as asylum cases. Some are asylum cases, and we have to kind of decide for that. But because we're a country that allows this opportunity, even if they've entered illegally, does that put us at a greater risk? I imagine just my own thought is like, this has to mean that other countries see this as like, now's the time, great opportunity, let's go.